Three, two, one, go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Triad of the Force podcast, a podcast from three Puerto Rican friends coming together to do deep dives into Star Wars and other nerd related media. This is season 1, episode 9, Gods of Our Own Making. So, Goose.
It's been a good week. It's been a good week for Star Wars, for Star Wars fandom. Season 2 of the Mandalorian just came out, and holy crap, was that a good ride?
Yeah.
I think we all can agree that we enjoyed that episode, but
Mhm.
it's not something that we will discuss on this episode because we
You
have a
can check. You,
spin-off
you,
show
you can
now.
check out our Mando Mondays.
We
Our
have
Mando
on
Mondays.
Mando Mondays, which, well, I mean, this episode's coming out on a Wednesday, so that means that you hopefully already checked it out. But as a reminder for
If you
episode
haven't.
chapter 10 of Mandalorian season 2, we are doing weekly reviews for that. So make sure to check that out. And also, we will also be on Geeky Waffle for 3 episodes to do uh, Mando discussions with a couple of other podcasters. I will be on next Saturday. So I think it's the 7th of November. Mo, I think you'll be on. You'll be the last on December.
18th,
I
I
forget
think.
what name. And Nani, you will be 2 weeks.
November 21st.
Yeah. So make sure to check those out. Once the dates are closer, we will give out more information. But having said that, Nani, our weekly question for you: how is the Clone Wars watch going?
So, I got through the Mortis arc, and
At long last.
I know you've been very excited for me to get there. So I stopped there because I just wanted to like take in the Mortis arc. Because I mean, even before I started watching it, my husband, who's very into the Clone Wars, had shown me a few scenes, so I
Mhm.
know how impactful it is to pretty much everything Star Wars. So now that I've seen it and digested it, I thought, it would be a good idea to talk about it with you guys who've
Mhm.
obviously seen it before and its impact and what it means. And there's so much. It's a short arc, but so much happens in that amount of time. So I think it's more than enough to get through an episode here. So
Definitely.
let's talk about the Mortis arc.
Let's talk about it. Before we kind of go into the deep dive with it,
Mhm.
uh, what were your initial thoughts when you saw it? Like, how did it reframe Clone Wars for you? Did it reframe Star Wars? Like, how? Because I think, at least personally for me, and I think for a lot of people, the Mortis arc is kind of an important arc as it kind of reframes how you go into the rest of Clone Wars and Rebels.
Okay.
Uh, so like I'm curious to know like your opinions on that since like you're fresh. And
Yeah.
it's always good to hear someone's fresh
Yeah.
opinion on that.
And it's also like a redefining of the Force as well, because I've been of the type that I really was expecting, the new trilogy to go in this whole Force users
Mhm.
balance aspect of the Force without even, seeing the Mortis arc. I just thought it was somewhere that it needed to go, and then I watched this and it completely solidified it for me.
Mhm.
But just on first impact, the episode begins, very strangely. They get a distress call from somewhere that is not even mapped. Uh, they send Anakin and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka, and there's a team, with Rex as well. And then they're supposed to be at the same place, but they can't find each other. So there's, it's just entrenched in mystery. And then they see what Mortis is. You can't really define it as a planet or anything. It's just like
Mhm.
this, shape. And then they get dragged into it, without being able to get away. And then they find themselves in this world that is just lush and gorgeous. And, it's so beautiful as time goes by that you start, the seasons start changing.
Mhm.
And it's obviously beautifully done. And then when you get the explanation about the daughter and the son, but I love the fact that it was so mysterious. And you see it, the characters themselves, like they're very surprised, they don't understand what's happening.
Mhm.
Because sometimes in these shows it upsets me that everybody just takes things in stride, like it's not supposed to be surprising.
Yeah.
But these characters were like, where are we, what is going on, what is this place? We've never, I mean, there was talk about this place like maybe thousands of years ago, but it's not even referenced
I like how
anymore.
Obi-Wan still plays it cool though. He's always like,
Oh, of course. Obi-Wan
yeah,
is still like, yeah, I know. And
this is
they're just
fucked
like,
up, but I'm
why are
keeping
you
my
so calm, Obi-Wan? Because
he's cool.
Obi-Wan has Obi-Wan high ground, so he's
Yeah.
invincible.
The OB-I high ground.
Obi-Wan high ground is a thing.
It's a thing. It follows you into intradimensional space.
Oh
Yes.
yeah. Now pretty much every time I see something and they say no, he has the high ground, I'm like Obi-Wan high ground. Like
It's that.
he defeats that rule every time.
Always.
But anyway, getting back to Mortis, obviously it was just so much that I wanted to see. I mean, this just because it's not Sith, it's not Jedi, it's beyond that. Even for the parts that represent the light and the dark. Yeah, you obviously know the daughter represents the light. You know the son represents the dark, but they're beyond Sith and Jedi. I mean, when they first see the son, they're like, "Oh, you're a Sith Lord." It's like, child, no, I'm way more than that. And even the father, I mean, like they're all supposed to be Force users. Obviously, one turns to one side or the other, but they were actually kept in balance. And then when they start to sense that the father is dying, then obviously the son starts going even deeper into the dark side, which makes it even more powerful. The daughter, who's completely selfless, does not delve harder into the light side, so they kind of come out of balance because of that. I really love the fact that you need both, which is something that I think the Jedi are always like, oh, we have to fight the dark side, we have to fight the dark side. No, you can't have the light without the dark. You need both sides. So I think this was beautifully represented here, that you really do need both of them for, everything to work. If you lean too much towards one or the other, then things start to fall into chaos. So I don't know. It was a very good watch, but I'm just here ranting by myself. So come on, help me out, guys.
No. Yeah,
I know.
You see your perspective on it as the fresh one.
The fresh perspective.
Yeah.
So would you say that this episode has kind of solidified your opinion of like Clone Wars and where the show is going, or would you say that it's like okay, just an okay?
No, it was fantastic. It was fantastic. It's some of the best things Star Wars has ever done. I think just this one arc is fantastic. The way it explores the true nature of the Force. There's a lot of exploration into Anakin and his dark side and his actual fall into the dark side, which I thought was very underwhelming in the films, because you obviously know he's going to turn into Darth Vader, but that transition from light to dark, like it doesn't make that much sense. You don't really see it, the development of that, like all the reasons behind it and all of that development. And you obviously get glimpses of it in the show, but this one really explores that.
Yeah.
And not only does it explore his dark side, but it finally answers the question that he is the chosen one. Because from the beginning, there's like Qui-Gon believed he was the chosen one, but it was never actually concluded. But this one, like, he is the chosen one. This is confirmed. So,
and we get Qui-Gon.
And we get Qui-Gon
back in the show, and played by Liam Neeson.
I know. I was
always a plus.
Oh, I got goosebumps when that happened. I mean, as soon as he showed up, I turned to my husband and I was like, "Is that actually Liam Neeson?"
Oh yeah.
And it's like, "Yes, it is." I was like, "Oh my god!" It was so good.
Best Jedi.
I know, and he's so wise. I love Qui-Gon Jinn.
There are discussions online on whether that was actually Qui-Gon or if it was just a vision that Mortis, projected onto Obi-Wan. Do you guys have an opinion on what was happening there? Because I think it was actually Qui-Gon who was able to, because Mortis is a nexus in the Force and it's so in tune with the Force cosmically, that Qui-Gon was actually able to talk to Obi-Wan.
I think that was actually Qui-Gon. It's stated pretty clearly there's something that's just, it's a force, pretty much like a force convergence of the planet that creates the solution for them. So I believe that was Qui-Gon. I mean, could have been an illusion or vision, sure, but at the same time, I think what Ahsoka saw, her future, that's not an illusion either. That was actually Ahsoka from the future.
How badass does she look, by the way?
Amazing.
Oh, don't. Well, I've said it before. I kind of don't. Not the biggest fan of the Rebels animation style, so I always kind of
Okay.
lean to that. So I was like, might have been better if they had gone that way
If they
stylistically.
would
But
have
that's
kept
besides the
her
point.
looking
That's
like
that.
that in Clone Wars. Yeah.
I mean, I think it was a little too much in that vision. I think she looked a little weird, but I still prefer that
She
look
looks
more than
badass.
the Rebels
She
one.
just looks badass.
I know.
Yes.
But it will make sense that it will be like an exaggerated version of her from the future.
Yeah.
Because it's still an uncertain future. That's I think the whole Mortis also like the act. It shows you that doesn't matter if you might be destined to be the chosen one, or you might have what's considered to be what's going to happen next, but you still have a say, you still have a choice.
Yeah.
And that's clear through at least in all episodes, right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Anakin has he always has the choice to, I'm just gonna leave. I'm gonna drop this. But I don't think they were just visions. I would say they were definitely the real thing.
Yeah. I think it was Qui-Gon as well. Just because, and even if they were visions, it doesn't make them less true.
True.
So,
True.
I mean, obviously you're in a place that's very strong, and even Qui-Gon tells Obi-Wan that if he's not the chosen one, it's going to be a very dangerous place for him because he's going to be bombarded with a lot of information because he's very sensitive to the Force, regardless of if he's the chosen or not.
Yeah.
And obviously they played with everybody's mind. Anakin has the vision of his mother, which does turn out to be the son, but just because the son is inspiring the vision doesn't mean that the vision is less real, because it's calling into
Well,
his guilt.
yeah, the vision is real, but it's not
Yeah.
Shmi
Yeah.
who's actually showing
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
But Qui-Gon specifically, I think Qui-Gon was really there, and he does not only talk to Obi-Wan, he talks to Anakin as well. And I think that was very important. It's kind of that fulfillment of, did I do the right thing for Obi-Wan? Like, did I do the right thing? I taught him like he wanted me to. Did I make a mistake or not? And Qui-Gon being very secure on the fact that he is the chosen one, regardless of, his connection now with the Force transcending death, and he still believes that it was the right choice for Anakin to be trained as a Jedi, because he still believes that he is the chosen one. So there was something very fulfilling about that. It's like kind of ending a circle there for Obi-Wan. Like, regardless of what happens now, it was me, Qui-Gon, your master's telling you that you did make the right decision. So it's kind of a validation for him that I think he really needed, because the council was never in favor of Anakin being trained. So I think Obi-Wan always doubted himself about that.
Yeah. I mean, especially because like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are very different Jedi. And I think that's one of the reasons that Obi-Wan failed, quote unquote, is because like he couldn't provide Anakin like what he needed for himself to become like a Jedi that would bring balance. And that's the thing that Qui-Gon was going to be the one to provide.
Yeah,
because Qui-Gon understood like that there isn't a binary, that there is a binary, but you don't have to choose in the way of the dogma the Jedi have or the Sith have. That there's like that middle ground.
Yeah.
That like I think is what's very explicit in Mortis. It's like it's always a struggle, but there always needs to be those two sides to the coin. Like one cannot live without the other. I mean, the minute that one of the gods were taken out of the equation, like the other one needed to check himself out.
Yeah.
So the Force ultimately balances itself out.
Yeah.
And that's the struggle that the whole movies and franchise has always presented, like that struggle to find that inner balance, and that one cannot rule over the other. And Qui-Gon, I think, is the best Jedi to embody that, and that's something that, not to go into Rise of Skywalker again, but Rise of Skywalker kind of failed to keep going, because Luke was so close in The Last Jedi. He was so
I know,
close
it
to,
was
like,
so close in The Last Jedi.
fulfilling Qui-Gon's mission, and then JJ
lost the vision, I guess. Anyway.
Which is actually a theory that I had heard before the movie came out, and like they had shown the trailer for Rise of Skywalker, and that scene when like Rey has like the dagger and they're pulling it out. like a lot of people had like a theory that that was the actual dagger of Mortis, and then they were gonna tie, Mortis into
Really?
Rise of Skywalker, and I was
That would have been
that would have
really
been really
cool.
cool, even though it doesn't look anything like the dagger of Mortis,
Similar,
but
but
like,
Yeah.
but that could be interesting because then you might bring everything
Hmm.
together. But then it just turned out to be a stupid knife. Like,
the
I know,
knife that
but
that someone sat down and carved
yeah, like
after.
hoping that nothing would collapse.
yeah. Well, that's what makes it so sad about the sequel trilogy. Aside from I still love it too. There's a lot of things about the new sequel trilogy that I love, but it's sad that you have this wealth of Star Wars canon from Clone Wars and Rebels, and you don't take advantage of it. You kind of leave it to the side, and there was so much development in those arcs that you could have brought forward. And just because not everybody has watched them doesn't mean that it isn't a part of the story. And I am one that will admit that I just started watching them. I ignored them for a long time, but they are still part of the story. Just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean you're thinking about these things, because I was thinking about force users and bringing balance before I ever saw this. So even if someone who hadn't seen it and hadn't seen it this explicitly, there were themes in Star Wars that needed to be explored in the movies.
Yeah, and to that point, like Mortis was so impactful that it kind of defined where the rest of Clone Wars went, and also was brought back in Rebels. I won't say how, but Mortis plays a part in
Really,
Rebels. See, I'm laying out the breadcrumbs for you to keep your
to
animation,
keep
Star Wars
going. Yes,
animation going.
yes,
Yes.
I will keep going. I promise.
Yeah.
Well, now you have to. Now you have a commitment to a channel.
Yes, but now I'm actually emotionally invested as well.
You're emotionally invested.
Yeah.
Yes.
I told you, as soon as I got to like Satine in season 2, I don't spoil anything. But anyway, I already had gotten emotionally invested, and then the Mortis arc is something else. It's so beautiful, and
I think it's
Mhm.
like going with that. Why it's also so beautiful. It's you finally, at least in my sense, like I always questioned the chosen one. Why is that person the chosen one?
Yeah.
And I think this is the first time we actually get to see.
What
Like
it means.
at least I remember just finishing. I was like, oh, this is why Anakin's the chosen one.
Yeah.
Like, and you can see it in that scene where uh, the Griffin and the Gargoyle like are ish pinning down the ones that Anakin loves.
Yeah.
And it's only when he finds that balance between the hatred he's feeling for those beasts with the love of what's he's invested with those people that he's able to surpass and be able to grasp them both at the same time in the Force. And to me, that journey was so impactful because it starts right from when, like you said, Nani, like from the beginning, like that shape. It's almost like a diamond, or
Yeah.
and the only ones that could get into it were probably the Force sensitives, in this case. So it kind of mirrors like that idea of like entering into that altered state of consciousness that
Yeah. And I don't think people can find it by accident. I think only people who are invited or pulled to it can actually get in.
exactly it's
Yeah.
it probably it's a door that just opens up. It will take you in, and in a way at the end they get spit out, and it's almost like to the rest of the world nothing happened.
Yeah.
And that goes back to that whole like but so you first go to they go in, they go to this lush place. It's kind of like the jhana. It's kind of like where you surpass what's the physical realm. You're now in the consciousness. You're now in this, and then right after that, the next step you get is the dark night of the soul. It's the darkness.
Yeah.
And it's not until Anakin has been through both the light, the dark, that he's able to like and face his own fears that he's able to actually hold these two people together. That's
Yeah.
when he's able to actually show that balance.
Mhm.
The to me it reframes the idea of the chosen one, because anybody can be the chosen one as long as you're able to
Find balance within yourself.
find that balance within yourself to bring it forth into the
Which is what they were going with
Yeah.
The Last Jedi.
Yep. But anyway, that scene is very powerful. I don't really see it as a Gorga. I see it like kind of a bat, and then the
Mhm.
daughter is like a griffin. So I thought they were kind of taking from Egyptian mythology as well, which I thought was really cool because Star Wars is very mythological in essence.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I mean, dragging from like Egyptian mythology, I thought was really cool. And then obviously, like you said,
Why don't you just in case like some people don't follow, why don't you like describe the meaning of what the griffin, the gargle slash bat, whatever you want to call it, would be, so we can like frame that for people if they're not too aware
well,
of that.
I'm actually very bad at describing, uh
Nani, you have great words.
no, I
We all have great words.
You all have great words. Go for it.
Well, a griffin is a guardian of the divine,
yeah.
right? It's a celestial being in a way
Yeah.
that protects the divine, and the
Mhm.
gargoyle or the bat, it's like it's associated with evil or wards off evil spirits, or
Mhm.
it's a creature of darkness. So it's very appropriate, right, for like
Yeah.
each character's like inner personality. And then
Yeah.
what's interesting though is that the father doesn't have an alternate form.
Mhm.
Or at least a form that he's comfortable showing.
True.
Yeah, we don't actually know if he does or doesn't. He just chooses not to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We don't
Another
know.
thing that I think it's interesting is that we have father, daughter, son, but where's the mother?
Yeah.
I was watching a video from like our illustrious favorite guest so far, Ty Black,
Ty Black.
where she mentions that the mother is actually nature. She's nature, and
It's
she's
the
the
planet
cosmic
itself.
force.
It's the mother is
Gaia. Yeah.
Mother
Exactly.
Nature. Yeah.
Yes.
Gaia.
Yeah. So we should
but
add a link to that episode from Ty so people can watch it and understand the mythos behind Mortis as well. So
and from a, I guess from a like on a very even a second like mythological level, you have the father, the daughter, and the son, which are it's a trinity. It's a trinity that comes out from the raw force essence. We have to assume that the mother will be just the force, everything that binds everything together, and these are just the representations that come into being
of those sides. Yeah.
those sides, because Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan need those forms to.
Mhm.
I'm sure between themselves, there's no form.
Yeah.
It's just the essence of each being.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. The forms come into being only when they interact with the material world, which is when Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Anakin get in.
Mhm.
So because if not, it's just raw energy. It's just the cosmic force. So there's no mother, because there's really no mother. There's no really son, father, or
I
daughter.
love that.
They're just manifestations so that we can understand it.
Yeah. So you think if it would have been like an alien species or somebody else that walked in, it would look more like them.
Right.
So they would be more understandable. So
their
shape is kind of taken from our unconscious.
Yes.
So we can understand them.
So the force gets manipulated
I
from
love
our
that.
subconscious.
Yes. I kind of love that.
I can see it.
You can see it.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
You're not sure if you're completely by it, but
I mean, I can buy it abstractly. I'm not sure if that's exactly what is happening in the show, but like I buy it in the abstract sense.
The abstract
of the
sense
force.
of the force.
Well, anyway, going back to that one scene where Anakin actually proves that he is the chosen one. I mean, how powerful is that when he actually, is able to slip the people that he loves from their arms? Like he slips them apart, throws them away, and then makes them kneel in front of them. I mean, how visceral is that scene?
Yes.
Well, it's perfectly framed because not only do you have like the visual of him like submitting the light and dark to his will, but
Yeah.
also like the arena that they're in. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, the whole arc is just so majestically done in terms of like not only what's happening with the
Mhm.
characters and how they're developing, but also like how the environments are designed.
Mhm.
Because, like for example, that arena where Anakin is doing that, they're basically sitting in a giant yin yang symbol.
Yeah.
So it's like everything that's playing off there is
Yeah.
like that light and dark, and it's not only shown by the characters and their wills, but also by the environment that they inhabit.
Yeah.
So it's like everything is that yin yang, because the landscape of Mortis was also that yin yang. Like when it was the day, it was beautiful and calm, but then as night came in, the seasons start changing and it becomes cold and dark. So it's like,
no, and it's also, it's not only like the season changing, it's like, you know, the light is like creation, you see things growing anew, and then the night is death and destruction.
Killing
like they have to literally go into a cave because the rain is acid and there's lightning strikes everywhere. So it's like, it's this perfect cycle of rebirth and death and coming back. Mobius strip.
Yes.
MOE.
No, but the whole Mortis act is
it's a whole
Mobius.
thing about
It's a Mobius strip because they come back, especially without, for the rest of the world, nothing happened. For the rest of the world, they just appeared.
I mean, and for them, they might not have also experienced it because the father removed those memories. From Anakin's mind.
Yeah.
Just
well,
because you
he
don't have the
removed
memories.
specific ones, but they actually knew there were Mortis. Like they knew Mortis happened.
Yeah, at the end they were just confused. They were like, "What the hell happened?" Like,
True. But they knew because when they finally connect with Rex again, he's like, "Oh, we just lost connection with you for a moment," and Anakin's like, "It's been more than a moment."
That reminds me of Contact. Remember the Carl Sagan movie?
Oh yeah.
When she goes into the machine and she just drops by, but for her it was like hours and hours on end, and her experience with the interdimensional beings or whatever they were called.
I need to rewatch that movie.
Contact was good.
I remember it was a good movie. I need to rewatch it because when I saw it, I was not prepared mentally.
Because it's strange. It's very.
It's a movie that was written by a scientist.
Yeah. So,
a philosophical scientist, not a Hollywood producer.
Yeah. There's a lot of there's just. I have to watch it again too. Actually, I haven't watched it in a long time. Anyway, we're losing track.
But it ties into also because when Anakin, so not only is the Jin Jan used, but when Anakin is actually at the perfect balance, there's really no time. You see the stars, you see changing, everything's just changing dramatically. So it reflects back to that idea that, you know, once you're in the Tao, once you're in that moment, then now there's no future, there's no past. It's just everything happening at the same time, and that sort of reflected when everything was happening around. The middle, nothing, just Anakin holding both sides, but then everything around.
Like Qui-Gon said, Obi-Wan says, Master Yoda told me I should be mindful of the future. Qui-Gon says, not at the expense
live
of
in
the
the
moment.
present.
Yes. So, yeah, it's
two different schools of learning.
It is a masterfully created arc, honestly.
Yeah.
Right?
And then we're still like on episode 1, by the way, of the arc. I mean, because then obviously the father confirms that he is the chosen one and that he's dying, and he wants Anakin to replace him so that he can keep control over the daughter of the sun. And Anakin leaves. He's like, he chooses the selfish path. Yeah, he chooses the selfish path. I don't think if he would have been married to Padme at this point, he would have left. I think he would have actually stayed if he didn't have those attachments, maybe.
But I think that's why the vision he has of Shmi is so important. Because Shmi says something, well, the vision of Shmi that the son created says something that like was really important, that resonated when I was rewatching it.
I know. I thought the same thing. Say it.
When Anakin says that like he wanted to like save Shmi and that he wants to save Padme because he loves them all so much, and then Shmi says then that's a prison.
Yeah, you have turned love into a prison. Yeah.
So it's kind of like which is that whole idea of like the balance of light and dark, but here with love, like if you don't love selflessly and you love selfishly, then you're contradicting nature, and you're like destroying yourself and the person that you're with. So in a way, that was like that uh, foreshadowing, right, of what's going to happen with Padme and his fall to the dark side. It's just like, yeah, he fell to the dark side because of a corruption of the light, right? Because he loved Padme,
He
and wanted to
loved,
save
but
her.
became so obsessed with this idea. Which it's like the father tries to convince him, like, you have to admit your guilt and let it go. But he let that guilt over letting his mother die, which it was not his fault whatsoever. He had no control over that. You have to admit sometimes when some things are out of your control. And he becomes so obsessed with keeping Padme safe that I love that line as well, that love became a prison for him. He was entrapped by it instead of love should be something that sets you free and makes you better, not something that entraps you. It became a toxic relationship.
So
well then the real question is, was it love? Did Anakin experience love, or was it just self-obsession with the idea of love?
No, I think it was love. I just think it was an unhealthy approach to that love. Because I mean,
but I get what Mo's saying though, because sometimes people confuse love and lust and confuse love with possession.
Yes.
And
I think it's Mark. I think there's an entanglement here. I don't think it's a scam.
Yeah, and I don't think it's as simple as that. I think it did start as love originally, but then obviously once his mother dies, once everything starts to happen, once he has his own push to the dark side in general, because he does tend to be a selfish person in general. So I think all of that combined with Palpatine talking in his ear constantly about all these things, and it turned something that was positive in his life to something that became negative. So, and I think we see a lot of it here in the Mortis arc, that, you know, he chooses to leave, he's selfish, love as a prison. And then when he actually gets those visions, the son gives him visions of what he's going to become. And I love it when at the end of the visions, you get like Darth Vader's helmet, like right behind his head. And I was like, oh my God, it's so good. And then obviously the soundtrack comes in and it's just fantastic. But you see all the things that happen to him, and his response is so Anakin. It's like, oh, in order to stop this from happening, I'm going to go dark side. So he goes dark side ahead of time. And you actually see him for the rest of the episode, you know, with the yellow Sith eyes and the whole thing. And then when everything happens, the father takes the memories away, and he says it's because these things need to happen. Basically, it's like, I don't want you to remember this because this is how time is supposed to go. Like, he foreshadowed that he was going to become Darth Vader, but through Darth Vader, balance is going to be achieved.
Interesting. I read that scene differently.
Oh, how did you read it? Mo, how did you interpret that moment?
So I saw that moment as being, I need to, because after Anakin saw that he will become Darth Vader, he actually decided, oh wait, I have to stay. Like that, like he had to follow the son, and he had to buy into the whole game and make sure that this doesn't happen. He wanted to take, once, it's almost like once he saw what was going to happen, now I want to take reins. So now he can't stay there because it's not really a free will created at that moment. It's actually, you already predetermined his future because
showing him the future.
By showing him an alternate future.
Okay.
So by deliberately choosing to act on a different, quote unquote, time frame or timeline, it's not free choice because
that makes sense.
You're already so
because of the world between worlds. That makes sense.
Actually, yes, it does make a lot more sense.
You'll see what the world between worlds is once you watch Rebels.
Yes,
I will get there, and we shall discuss. So basically, you see it as the son took away his ability to choose by showing him the future, and the father gave him again the ability to choose by erasing the memory
of the future.
Okay. I see your points. I like my point too.
No. So here. Okay, I love your point. But so because the segue to, if Anakin chose to stay knowing the future, that will create resentment down the road,
Mhm.
because he he's not even doing anymore out of like love. He's just doing it to prevent an outcome he's already aware of.
Yeah.
So that resentment as the new father figure
Yeah.
would eventually create it, will not be a balance in the force,
No.
just because he already has that vision of the future. That's why I think the father had to raise it. But
Yeah. Well, and it
I
wasn't
really,
just.
yes, I really,
Yeah.
no, no, I really like the way you framed it as well. This is like,
Well, because it wasn't just him staying; it was him joining the dark side and helping the sun. Because the sun's eventual plan is to leave and actually start influencing the galaxy with the dark side, and him taking control over the galaxy with it. And it goes to foreshadowing what Anakin eventually becomes as well. In that, even when he was giving that option to stop it, he chose the dark side to stop it and to bring peace through the dark side.
because
We
it's hubris. It's his hubris.
Yeah, and
the
it's
ego.
almost the same thing he says. It very much mimics what Darth Vader says to Luke, the son saying to Anakin, now let's rule the galaxy together. We can, become more powerful than my father. We can break through this and we can rule the galaxy together and bring peace. So it's very evocative of what's going to happen. There's a lot of foreshadowing. I mean, there's many layers to it that you can see throughout all of it.
Mhm.
And then
Like poetry, it rhymes.
it is. And then obviously when they turn Ahsoka to the dark side. And all these feelings that, when she wakes up from the dark side, she doesn't remember any of it, but I'm pretty sure there were some feelings in there that were real. They were augmented by the fact that she was infected with the dark side, but there were probably feelings in there that were true.
Well,
And
because
she-
Ahsoka is
Yeah.
a mirror image of Anakin in
Yep.
many ways.
Mhm.
They go through the same things, and like it's a way for Anakin to see himself, and also for Ahsoka to, especially like further down Clone Wars and into Rebels, to kind of do the opposite things that Anakin ends up doing. So that's why, in a way, she becomes the perfect Jedi in Rebels, because she is following like that more neutral. Well, she leaves the ways of the Jedi, but by
Yeah.
doing that, becomes the perfect Jedi, because she's
pure
going
Jedi.
through that. Yeah, because she's going through that middle way,
Yeah.
neither
She finds
dark
balance.
nor dark, but she
Mhm.
finds that balance and
Yeah.
rejects that dogma. So
Mhm.
I think that's why Ahsoka's experience is very important to Anakin's, because they're parallel experiences.
Yeah. And then one chooses to find balance within herself, and even if Anakin eventually provides balance, he never finds it within himself until that like last final moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like Anakin chose the path of selfishness, and Ahsoka went selflessness.
Selfless. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's when Ahsoka dies.
Mhm.
And then the daughter decides to sacrifice herself to, save Ahsoka, because she's already dying, so she's gonna save her. But you see how it affects Anakin,
Mhm.
how much emotion you get from him. And even before, it's like, no, I have to save Ahsoka. When it's a Jedi tenet that, if your Padawan's in trouble, you lift the beat. Like, you can't sacrifice the good just for one person.
Mhm.
And you already in this arc see Anakin, and it's Ahsoka. It's not even his wife.
Mhm.
It's his,
But that's kind of bullshit on the Jedi's part, though.
It is. I know it's complete bullshit, but you already see that tendency of his to, give everything for somebody that he loves, which is not a bad thing. I think the Jedi, are kind of, like a cult, and, some things are off. Yes.
Yeah.
I have to say.
Yes.
Understatement. Yeah.
I know. But you start seeing those traits in Anakin already. So aside from, all the visions of the future that you get, you see a lot of it in his actions as well. How he's having he could not let go of Ahsoka. I think if Ahsoka died there, he would have gone insane.
He would have probably gone dark side completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because in a way, Ahsoka's almost like a daughter.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like it's even Like he probably spent also more time with Ahsoka than with Padme.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Tenfold, like so. All of your life you've been built up as you're the chosen one. You can pretty much do anything, and then
Yeah.
you cannot bring back somebody.
Yeah, and you can't protect your loved ones.
You can't
Yeah.
protect your loved one.
Yeah. What does it matter if I'm all powerful if the people that I love end up dying?
Well, his grandson figured it out.
Well, it took 2 generations to get there.
Yep.
Well, and the grandson dies anyway.
The
Well,
grandson
but
dies.
because that's the price you have to pay to go against the will of the Force. I mean, death is it's like Yoda would say, it's a natural part of life. So
it's the equivalent exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, and then we get to the end of the arc, and it ends with all of them dying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the father says to him, you brought balance to Mortis, but he brought balance with death, which is really depressing. And it's how he ends up bringing balance at the end too, by killing Palpatine, which it's like really depressing.
but it's Anakin's theme.
Yeah.
Like the way it's a very childish approach. Okay, I'm gonna bring balance by eliminating both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course you're gonna have balance. Like, and it also foreshadows. I'm gonna kill all the Jedi and then kill all the last remaining Sith. Like,
throw him down a shaft.
Well,
the Star Wars way.
He does bring balance, but that's how he does it. I mean, he kills countless Jedi.
But it's not true balance.
No, it's not.
It's the
well, the balance is not a constant thing, which I think is also another point. Like balance is a continual struggle, always.
Yeah. Which is what's so good about the Mortis arc, that you see the brother and the sister continually battling each other, and the father kind of like keeping the stalemate happening. And their cycles. Yeah.
So this brings a good question. What hypothetically would the universe be better off with a father, a daughter, and a son, or with none? If both have a balance, why would you support one over the other?
Well, I think that I'm not sure like there's an actual confirmed answer for this, but like the Mortis beings are manifestations of the Force. So in a way, they're like you were talking before, in a sense, they're like the manifestations of light and dark made. Well, they're not people, I guess, but like made into beings. So they're representational of what it is. So just because they're not around physically doesn't mean that the essence of what they are for the galaxy aren't there.
But
if that makes any sense.
So then that turns what their death meant, if anything.
For the greater galaxy, I think it meant that there was less control over what was directly happening with the Force, because at least for me, I see the Mortis arc as like a turning point of how the Force is shifting into imbalance.
Yeah.
Because before that, you can see like the Clone Wars can be like evenly matched, and the galaxy is in balance because Republic, Separatist, it's everything's going the same way, if that makes any sense. And then after they pass into the netherworld of the Force, then things start going a little more crazy with like the logistics of the war and whatnot. I mean, maybe that's one way to look at it. And then, obviously, then ultimately what happens is the Jedi are destroyed, and then Anakin goes to the dark side. So I think that's what their death represents at the moment. Nothing happens, but it cascades into the events that the galaxy goes through. Maybe, I don't know. That's just me bullshitting right now.
No. I mean, I think we're at the moment where we're just bullshitting anyway. So
because I mean, it's something that I wanted to bring up, even though Nani hasn't seen Rebels, but I still think it's valid to bring up because then you have characters like the Bendu, right? Who's like the one in the middle. So I think like the Mortis gods or whatever they are, aren't just aren't the only necessarily the only beings that like
Mhm.
represent light and dark and balance. I think that there are multiple manifestations of that in different ways. And like for example, you have the father, but then you also have the Bendu, and you have the guardians of the wills, who are also force beings. So like there isn't like one group that necessarily maintains like that control over the force necessarily. Maybe, I don't know.
No, no, I don't see it as anybody necessarily controls the force, but and I think it's a good thing you brought the idea of the Bendu, because then you don't have it goes, I guess it goes back to the idea of like we were talking about, like, is the Bendu the idea of the mother? Is it
Mhm.
just one being or one essence that has both the dark and the light? And you don't really need a balance, because you're not breaking it, you're not creating a duality of light and dark.
Mhm.
It's just is, which is, in a way, they're also two sides of the same coin. It mythologically goes into that trinity thing, like you
Mhm.
have you have the the three beings, but that's only a manifestation of the larger concept. The Bandu is the living essence of just being at that middle.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna take any sides. The father is actively keeping checks on
Yeah.
both sides,
Mhm.
which is a little bit different. One is just like a boat floating in the river, and the
Yeah,
other is building dams to make sure that there's a balance between light and dark.
interesting.
Mobius,
I'll get back to you when I
You
find
got
out what the Bendu are.
you have the best word.
Oh yeah. Obviously he has the best
Interesting,
words.
interesting.
Yes.
No, but I don't think the Bendu represents the mother. I still think the mother isn't a physical being. I still agree with like what Tai said in her video. I think the mother is the cosmic force. It's
Mhm.
just
oh, yeah.
everything that is
Mm.
around that like imbues everything with that force within it. So I don't think she's necessarily, because even Obi-Wan actually, it's interesting because when I was doing the rewatch, when Obi-Wan refers to the planet, he refers to it as a she.
Yeah, you're right.
So
Hmm.
when he mentioned that, I'm like,
Yeah, I
maybe
think
maybe there's something there.
maybe there's
Uh,
something there.
so like I like the analogy you make though between the father and the Bendu, because I was trying to figure out how they're functionally different, and the
Hmm.
way you described it makes abs perfect sense.
And I guess the mother will be the river in a sense.
In a I don't think she's just, I don't think she's the
She's
river.
she's,
I think
she's
she's
everything. She's
everything.
everything. She's
Yeah,
everything. Yes.
because the river in this case, in your analogy, is just dark and light. It's both at the same time.
No, the river's a force. It's just a force.
Exactly. So dark and
Well,
light.
the
So that's
river,
why the
yeah,
that's why the father is being the dance, because he's controlling the
yeah.
water. So it's dark or light, whatever, just
Mhm.
controlling it. And but the
When it's
mother's just
life giving
everywhere.
and when it's destructive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
good.
I don't know. There's something about, because obviously you don't really know. You don't know if they're gods. You don't know what they are. The father just describes them as force users. They've been around for who knows how long. Time doesn't pass where they are. You don't know if they're in the galaxy, outside of time. But I think, and I've read, there's like theories that this is, like the origin place of the force, which
Mhm.
I don't think that's true. I think the
I don't
force
think
is
so too.
everywhere. I think they're just maybe very ancient, very powerful beings
Yeah.
that were kept out of time because, time evolved beyond them and they were too powerful to be directly in contact with the world because they would affect it too directly. And by being separate, even by being separate and them being so powerful, they still affect what happens outside. So I
Yeah.
think that's why the father was worried about one winning over the other, because even inside that, this balance would affect the rest of the world.
Yeah. That's a good point. Maybe like they live in their microcosm that's in
Mm-hmm.
that diamond shape, or as I like to see it, two pyramids. because it's very that iconography is used a lot, especially with the dark side. You go to like the episodes of Malachor, and there's like these pyramidal structures, and then obviously Exegol in Rise of Skywalker is like this pyramid. So like having the entry point to Mortis be like this diamond, two pyramids on top of each other
Yeah.
shape.
I
It's
hadn't
very
seen it that way,
evocative of
but you're
something.
right, because you can see the divide and it actually looks like two pyramids. Yeah.
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 So like I like how you frame it that way because then it kind of gives the Bendu like a different. Well, let's just define the Bendu for Nani. The Bendu is a character in
Uh-huh.
Rebels who he lives on. What planet are they on? I think they're in Adelon. Whatever. I could be wrong about the planet. Doesn't matter. The point is
I don't
that
remember names.
he's this massive force being that Kanan and Ezra, the two Jedi characters from the
Mhm.
show, encounter, and he describes himself as the one in the middle. So he is a force being
Okay.
that is not aligned to the dark side or
Or
the
the
light
light.
side.
Mhm.
He is in the middle, and he describes himself that way, and he helps them with their journey through the force. So I'm gonna say so that you still enjoy the episodes.
Okay.
But
Uh-huh.
tying it back to what you said, I think it's
Mhm.
important to like understand the roles because then it kind of gives them, and I want to say it this way, but it kind of gives them like lesser and greater roles because since the Bendu is outside of
Yeah.
Mortis, he quote unquote has a lesser role slash influence on the
Mhm.
Force as a whole. I think he has a local influence,
Mhm.
whereas the father has a cosmic,
Cosmic.
galactic, yeah, exactly, a galactic influence.
Mhm.
Maybe that's their functional difference in a way.
And I think the father actually says it at one point that they had to go into isolation. Like it was a choice for them to kind of, step aside from the day to day of the universe.
Just making sure everything's working.
Yeah, it's like it's the idea of like primordial beings.
Yeah.
That
Mhm.
they were probably
Yeah.
if if we correlate that, it probably mirrors whatever expansion of our own universe happened there, just intermingle with the force.
Mhm.
Then it will make sense that at the beginning there will be a concentration of a nexus in the force
Mhm.
that will create a consciousness that.
Mhm.
But now, like this creates like an interesting idea because then is ultimately the father really necessary? It wouldn't by nature chaos and by the fact that the universe exists, that implies that by its own resolve, chaos or the dark side and
They
order
were
or the light
balancing
side
themselves
that
out without a check.
without a
Uh,
check.
I disagree.
I think
I
it
think
is
that either
very.
would have destroyed the other eventually at some point. So
I
that would
don't
have
think it's
created bigger
necessarily that though.
unbalance.
I think it's the way that it's framed, not only with their allegiance, the daughter and the son, but in their nature.
Mhm.
Because the son is fully selfish and the daughter is fully selfless. So she would never attack her brother. And that you see that when they start fighting, she doesn't want to attack him. So I
Well,
think
but she also
I know, and then she
gives
sacrifices
Obi-Wan the
herself.
dagger.
I know.
She's like, I won't do it, but here's the dagger.
I know, but there's something about it that I don't think. I think the father is necessary
Yeah.
in the way that they're done. Like if they would have been complete mirrors of each other, you would see that canceling themselves each other out. I think a little bit more, but
Yeah.
because of their natures as well, and the fact that the dark side, eventually you start wanting more, which is what happens to the son. He's not just content fighting his sister, on and on. He starts to desire more. Once he starts to sense the weakening of his father, he wants to take his place. He wants to go outside. He wants to influence the world.
Yeah.
Like there's this greed that comes with the dark side for more and more that you see with Anakin as well. Anakin originally goes to the dark side because he wants to protect the people that he loves. And because he becomes so twisted that he thinks that through the dark side, he can get peace. But eventually becomes, I want to rule the galaxy.
Yeah.
So you can see that transition. Like the dark side wants more and more and more. It wants to consume. It wants to eat. It wants to get bigger. And
it dilutes itself on the reasons why, because the things you just said about the son are the same things that Palpatine said when he's talking about the empire. Oh, at
Mhm.
last we will have peace. You
Mhm.
know, prosperous and secure empire.
Mhm.
And all that shit. He's like, yeah, you're deluding yourself. Even
Yeah.
though I think Palpatine isn't deluding himself, I'm sure
Yeah.
he's very
I think
more
Palpatine knew
Machiavellian
exactly what
about
he
it.
was
But
doing.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But it still feeds into that narrative,
Yeah.
right? That like you're thinking you're or at least projecting that you're doing the positive thing.
Yeah.
But when it's all really just for your own
Self-satisfaction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think
As
the
well, yeah.
ideal is that you don't need the father, which is why like ultimately like the chosen one kind of dies right at Return of the Jedi because you don't need him
Yeah.
anymore. So like he steps away from the equation and the galaxy can keep going on without him. Or at least
Except it doesn't continue in balance after the chosen one is gone.
well, I mean it was for like 20, 30 years.
Well, as we have seen from the Mandalorian, there wasn't really any balance. It was
Well,
kind
balance
of
balance in the force I think is different
Yeah.
than balance politically.
I know.
It's
I know. I know.
getting into the weeds there.
Yeah, I know, but I'm still, thirsting to see how that happened. I wish somebody would actually address that. Like what happened afterwards? Like how did government get established? How did the New Republic come into being? Who chose who was who?
I want to see, yeah, I want to see like a prosperous republic,
Yeah.
and
And
like
was
see
it
how
really a good republic? Because the
Exactly.
rebellion still continued, or was it the same players coming back and doing a corrupt Senate all over again? Is that what the New Republic was? I mean, we don't
well,
know.
according, well, actually,
Correct
Well,
me
maybe
if
we
I'm
do.
wrong. Mhm.
well, actually, I haven't read the book actually, and I've actually read that the book is actually extremely good. It's written by Claudia Gray, and according to the nerds, she's one of the best authors in Star Wars out right now.
Uh-huh.
And in Bloodlines, it basically goes into like the whole structure of the New Republic and actually what went wrong with it. And they
Okay.
have like the centrists and the whatever. I forgot the two factions.
Okay.
But it's
Yeah,
basically
but there's stuff out there that explains it. Okay. I did not know
in
that.
a way, and it's more or less it is more or less what happened with the like civil war here in the United States. With like you have a group of people that believe in a more powerful central government, and other people
Mhm.
that believe in more autonomous states, and or in this case planets.
Okay.
And that's kind of like how the First Order started infiltrating and buying their influence with some of those uh, planets that didn't
We're
want more
undecided.
central, that didn't want more central
Yeah.
governmental rule.
Mhm.
So there is some of those things out there, but I still think that
Okay.
we need to
It
see
needs a
it
more
more
like
concretely.
cohesive
Yeah,
explanation how it happened, because I
'Cause
would
it's-
understand that, because I mean after the Empire, you knew that the Republic failed.
Mhm.
Like the Republic failed because it was corrupt and it allowed this to happen. So
We
I
saw
think
it,
it would
yeah.
be it would be really hard to trust if you went straight back to a republic. Like
Mhm.
wouldn't they have tried to maybe do a different type of government? I don't know. So
But that's the thing. Like the prequel trilogy showed us that,
mhm.
and then it's almost as if we need like a trilogy before the sequel trilogy to
Yeah.
then see that
To
downfall.
explain that, yeah. Mhm.
No, but I agree. But going back to like Mortis, I'm not
Mhm.
sure how necessarily that tied back into that. But yeah.
Yeah. We go on
Yeah.
tangents. This is what we do. Oh man. But no, it was a great arc, really. There were so many themes. I mean, the relationship with Anakin and Ahsoka is,
Mhm.
it's getting stronger all the time.
One thing for you to keep in mind though is once you keep going through your journey and going to
Mhm.
Rebels, the daughter and Ahsoka, there's a relationship that continues in some way.
Okay. Oh, and now that you talk about the daughter, did you notice how foreshadow it is? Like the position that the daughter is entombed looks almost exactly like how Padme.
I did not recall that now.
I
But
did not. Okay. Yeah.
Oh my god, watch it again. It looks almost. I saw it and I was like, oh my god, it's almost exactly like Padme.
I
Dude.
think that's one of the cool things that like Clone Wars does. That like there's
Mhm.
always like a little callback to like
Yeah.
all the movies. Because for example, like that scene in the first episode when they're being pulled into Mortis, it's basically a recreation of when
Yeah.
like
When
the
the
Millennium
Death Star.
Falcon is pulling into the Death Star. I was like, okay.
Yeah. We're in the street. We can't move. We're caught.
It's
Yeah.
like, I got you, Filoni. I see what you did there.
It's because that's what's so good about it. And sometimes you don't even notice it.
Yeah.
It's kind of, after you start thinking about it, you're like, wait, I can't believe he went there. That's so, well done.
But this is one of those things that kind of proves that George Lucas has great ideas. Because Mortis is George Lucas, but he let someone else write it.
Take the helm.
Yeah. Because because he's great with the concepts and the ideas and the story. Obviously, you just have to accept when you have faults, and sometimes it's hard to write. Not everybody can write dialogue that's believable.
No.
I mean,
people aren't humans, and George Lucas is not a human, so he needs to let other people take the reins there.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, and talking about going back to the ideas and everything, you have that when Anakin gets his visions and everything, it's very reminiscent of Mustafar. You're inside a volcano, or you have the lava, you have all these themes going on. It's like recreating when he actually goes dark side later on. It's like, I'm going dark side now, early, and screwing everything up.
The other thing I saw in that, I don't know if it was just me, but like the tower that the sun lives in, I was like, that's Barad-dûr. Come on, that's.
It looks like the Eye of Mordor. Yeah,
I'm like, that's Lord of the Rings, bro.
Yeah, I thought that too. I was like, that is the Eye of Mordor, except it's green.
And exactly, and then they go in, and then they're in a volcano. Come on, you're throwing the ring into the lava of Mordor. Come on.
Yeah, I know.
Filoni, I know you like Lord of the Rings too. I got it.
No, and you have to admit, anything fantasy, everybody has stolen from Tolkien.
Well, he made that shit.
Well, yeah, but everything fantasy in all time steals something from Tolkien. That's just a fact of life.
I mean, if you're gonna steal from the best.
Steal from the best, of course.
Or maybe the Tolkien stole from very old and stuff.
Well,
that everybody eventually wore.
Well, but he transformed it though.
Yeah,
it's like George Lucas with Star Wars, right? He stole from Flash Gordon and all the serials that he liked because growing up, but transformed it into something else. Yeah. It's kind of distinct in a way, just like Lord of the Rings. Tolkien did it with Lord of the Rings, where he took from like ancient Norse mythology and like all these mythologies and turned it into his own fantasy. So it's a transformative thing, like that makes it his own
art.
Would I call it an evolution? Sure, let's call it that for
now.
No, it just goes back to the hero's journey.
Yeah. Where it's not a blueprint; it's a guideline to understand what came before and then transform it to turn it into your own.
Yeah, because I mean, most of the myths follow the same threads. Be it if you want to interpret them as science fiction, if you want to do full fantasy, if you want to do myth, if you want to do, Westerns, you have the same, tropes coming up all the time. So it's not necessarily stealing, it's reinterpreting different
things. At this point where we are in the 21st century, everything's been done in some way.
Everything's been done. Yeah.
You just gotta take it and transform it somehow.
Yeah.
It's just like matter. Matter's not created or destroyed. It's only transformed. So we're approaching the final throes of our conversation. I think one of the interesting points that we could discuss was an analogous image that I recall seeing in The Last Jedi. Now that we're contrasting it with Mortis, and The Last Jedi, when we go into the top of the mountain or wherever the fuck Luke and Rey are training, you see that mosaic on the floor.
Yeah.
And if you dig into it and do the research in the visual dictionary, it is confirmed to be the prime Jedi. And the mosaic shows a Jedi in the lotus position with his lightsaber, but engulfed with in both halves, engulfed in light and dark. So obviously it seems to suggest that this prime Jedi, the first Jedi, is a being that is in balance. And that iconography obviously not only has the ties to yin and yang, as would in real world iconography would be the analogous thing, but in Star Wars mythos, it would then tie into Mortis and like the arena that like Luke
Mhm.
was fighting the daughter and the son. in.
Anakin,
Who did I say?
Luke.
Oh, well, sorry.
No,
Whoops.
but
It happens.
My mistake. Apologies, nerds. That Anakin was fighting the son and the daughter. So, like, do we feel in some way then that there's, and this is obviously going way on the deep end and like totally theoretical, but
Mhm.
is there like any connection maybe between the Prime Jedi and the Gus of Mortis?
Hmm.
interesting, because and this goes to I feel like they're a little bit distinct. Because like the Prime Jedi, it alludes to that idea of like the Adi Jogi, the Adi Buddha, the first being to, synthesize and feel the force or understand the force. So yes, it has to have a balance. But it's a balance that when the figure is sitting, you actually have both sides. It's like a reflected inside yin and yang. Like at least the gods seem to be like an external element of the force. So maybe it's just the Prime Jedi is just that being, kind of like the Bendu that's outside of the force, but has that access to understanding both sides of the force and has to balance them.
Mm.
The gods, by their definition, are outside of that. They have they're either not within the galaxy or a part that can actually like they have no time and space.
Yeah, they're within it and without it. Yeah.
And without it, and that has to be key to be. I feel like the Prime Jedi is the other way around. Has to they can probably with their minds access that force, but their physical being has to be a material self. That's why the Jing and Yang has to be inside and not just the general Jing Yang of the balance of the force.
I buy it.
You buy it. I haven't looked into that much into like the history of the Jedi. I don't know when it actually became that divide between Sith and Jedi. So to speak of the Prime Jedi, I don't think I'm knowledgeable enough, and I think calling.
I mean, no one knows. Eh?
Yeah, the actual
So you can say
history of
anything
it.
you want.
I know.
I BS'd, Nani. You can BS too.
No, but the fact that you call him, I mean, as a Prime, just using the word Jedi already means that you go to the light. Because that's the distinction that has been made now.
Well, that's like when you talk. Well, I'm gonna.
Correct me. Go.
It's not correction. It's more of a pushing back type of thing, because it's like Democrats and Republicans, right? Like now, that word and association has a meaning towards what that represents. But like if you go decades into the past,
it meant something else.
It meant something else.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think Jedi doesn't always have to be like this one thing.
Yeah, maybe it changed eventually with history as the Jedi became more attached to the light, and then the distinction was made. Maybe the word Jedi originally meant Force user in balance.
Maybe, yeah,
maybe we don't know.
Does anybody know the etymology of Jedi?
I was actually. I know I've read it before, but I don't remember. So I hope that you just looked it up so you can educate us.
Yeah.
Is your mind being blown as you read it? Yeah.
I think I think his mind's being blown. Are you going to share with us, Mo?
Yes. So according to Wikipedia,
which we just said last episode, don't get everything from Wikipedia.
Not get anything from Wikipedia. Okay, let's. But in this case, from the Japanese. Jida Jeki, and I probably mispronounced that completely.
Apologies, Japanese fans.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
But it means a period drama. or perhaps inspired by the word Jed, leader, and Jedak, king, in the Barsum series of Ekdar Rice Burrows.
I'm,
That's I have no idea.
I have no idea what that means.
yep. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what that meant. I thought you were gonna drop like a truth bomb. I was like, oh,
It
it
all
means
makes
self
sense.
it means self-awareness and connectivity. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
George Lucas failed us on that one.
Yeah.
Hey,
I mean-
it was just simply I like that. Let's just.
That's a good word.
That's a good word.
Yeah.
And
It's-
nothing wrong with that. That's a beautiful way of
Yeah.
living.
No, and it's you don't need to know everything about it. I mean, it gives you more time to flesh everything out. It's something that can completely, always be explored, and you're never gonna get all the answers. You don't always get all the answers to everything anyway.
Sometimes it's better not have.
Sometimes it's better
answers.
to not have all the answers, and then you can speculate and have your own ideas about it. Like if you have different interpretations, it doesn't mean any of them are wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, it opens up to everybody kind of thinking about it, because the Jedi, if you want to call it a religion, a cult, whatever it is, with its flaws and with everything, it still opens you up to like interpret other religions through it.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, that's something Dave Filoni has always kind of been big on, which
Mhm.
is not explaining some things.
mhm.
And Mortis is one of those things. I was actually, as I was doing a little homework for this
Uh-huh.
episode during the week, I was looking just when the Clone Wars episodes were being released. I don't know if it was like for the DVD releases or whatever. It's irrelevant. They were like behind the scenes episodes
Mhm.
where like they interview Dave and he gives his explanations of what's going on the arcs and whatnot. And for Mortis, he was very adamant to be like,
Okay.
I mean, there are things that we definitely thought of when we were
Mhm.
doing X, Y, and Z, but we don't want to explain it because one, it would detract from people's
Yeah.
imagination of like making up their own answers,
Yeah.
which for those particular questions is more important than
Yeah.
just us telling them
Mhm.
what's happening.
Mhm.
And I think he also said similar things for the Morai in Rebels when people asked if she's the daughter. He's like, maybe. Maybe.
I have
maybe.
to get there first.
I said
no.
words that you don't know what they mean.
I know, but still.
Words.
But no, I actually love that he framed it that way, because it's true, because the whole arc is basically about self-exploration, and the fact that he wants us to self-explore as we watch it, instead of it being handed on a platter, makes it that much more important of an arc.
Well, it's like art in a way. Like sometimes you look at a piece of art at a museum and you take from it more meaning than it was necessarily imbued with.
Mhm.
And if like the artist tells you that, oh yeah, that doesn't mean anything, I just put a couple splotches of paint there, it kind of ruins it in a way, even though it shouldn't. But like I think that's what Filoni's kind of getting at. It's just like, hey, I don't want to take away any meaning that you can take away from that, because that the meaning that you give it is more important than the meaning it actually has.
Yeah. Which you
And I
used
think-
to see more in film and everything as well. Now sometimes everything is too cookie cutter, like in your face. I have to explain it. There was an art to it before where it was more about, people, interpreting it in a certain way, I guess.
Well, which I think is one of the great things that we disagree on some things, and people will need to listen to that episode to understand what I'm talking about, but especially about the new episode of The Mandalorian, where like there are things that like, even though they're hitting you in the head apparently about what their meaning,
he's so sour
about what their
somebody's
meaning
salty
are. No, but like for other people it's not, so make sure to check out that episode. It's very interesting.
We don't always have to agree to love the same things.
No, that's true. That's very true. No, I think that's the purpose of like having like a multi different people commenting
and the
on the same thing,
discussion makes
because
it
gives you-
better. When things are controversial, they're actually better, because if people interpret them in different ways, it actually has more meaning than if everybody thinks one exact way about it.
Controversial is only good if like you're not doing ad hominems or attacking the other person, like some factions from the we've already called them out before, so let's call them out again, from the Fandom Menace do.
The
and it's
Fandom
just like,
Menace,
hey, bros, just relax. So Subtle discussion.
Yeah. I mean, fans in general and fans of all things, you know, you can't hate somebody for interpreting something a different way. I mean, you take what you like from it and you accept it. And then you hear other opinions you might not like, but you don't have to hate on it. I hate haters. I do. I hate haters.
I hate haters that like hate for hating.
Yeah. 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 And then become like actually, you know,
and then that hate
bullies and mean. Yeah.
Yeah, but beyond hating, because whatever you hate, what you hate, and what fuck it, you can't control that. But it's more so like policing what other people can like.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, because I don't like a lot of things, but I don't care if someone else likes them.
Or you're free. Yeah,
it's kind of like I'm not going to go out of my way to attack someone that likes something else, unless it's you, Nani, or something. But that's because we're family.
Because you're just mean,
exactly.
And you're just mean. Yes.
With you, yes. But you know, it's going out of my way to attack someone else for liking something. It's just like, hey, just whatever, man. If you like it, it's great. Everyone should find something that they love and they're passionate about, and that they take joy in like finding meaning in. Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons that the Mortis arc is so incredibly powerful, because I think it spans across like different groups of people in the fandom to kind of unite them all, because I think this is something that everyone kind of comes together to like analyze and interpret and enjoy.
Yeah.
Especially
because really it's not, you know, completely explained. So it brings people, you know, like you said, it brings people together to just like try to figure out what it really means.
Yeah.
Are they real? Are they not? Did it happen? Did it not happen? Are we having an inception moment? Were they all dreaming? And, you know,
I think it's kind of like, I think it's like Contact. As we mentioned it before, I think that's
like the transdimensional thing, like they went out of time somewhere else and met beings from some other galaxy, and
it's a combination between Contact and what you mentioned from Interstellar. And it's like Interstellar, they're beyond in the black hole, so they're beyond space and time. So it moves into that direction, I think.
Yeah.
It's in off the world but out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately it doesn't matter if it's because the only thing that matters is that they had that journey, and by proxy we had the journey with them. Just but
like it's interesting if we're gonna dissect it in terms of real world experiences. I don't know if you know what I'm getting at, Mo, but like we will not do that in this episode.
I have no idea what you're talking about, so I guess we're not doing that.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it off.
We'll have to get back to this because I have zero clue what you're talking about.
Zero clue.
But
I'll clue you in.
But
wow, that was a horrible pun.
Like Darth Vader.
Darth Vader had horrible puns.
The best puns. But you didn't have the best.
Choke on your aspirations.
Perfect.
Perfect dad pun. He's a dad. He's just doing puns.
Oh my god. I really loved obviously Qui-Gon. You know.
I need more.
And hearing Liam Neeson's voice was just like butter. You know, like
it just makes me want to need him more in the Kenobi show.
I think, I mean, he's integral to Obi-Wan's journey. So I think there's a need for him to show up every once in a while, you know, or at least be mentioned, you know.
Just once.
I mean, I just had like this perfect image for the Kenobi show that if they don't do it, I guess fine, but like it's such a wasted opportunity. It's like Obi-Wan just sitting up like on a sand dune or something, and Twilight looking out on the horizon, and the camera just pans out, and you see a silhouette in the sand looking at the sunset with the stars coming up, and then all of a sudden like the ghost of Qui-Gon just shows up next to him, and they just have like this discussion of the Force or Luke or something.
This is why Goose always gets disappointed. He has these grandiose.
Yes, he creates this whole great scenario.
He creates this whole thing with all the details. I'm pretty sure he hears the sounds and everything. Yeah. He hears the soundtrack coming in.
Oh yeah. I have it. It's right there.
He's so bad.
I'm gonna send Deborah Shaw right now an email. It's like, hey, this is what you gotta do immediately, please.
This has to happen.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why everyone needs to like. Share this video, like it,
So it will get done.
So it will get viral and make sure it reaches Deborah Chow and Lucasfilm so that this scene is indeed in the show.
We're
God.
probably less than 6 degrees away from anyone. So
I think we might be close. We might be close. We're at 8 degrees, maybe.
Well, if not, we'll get Kevin Bacon, and then
Yes,
he'll help us.
Well,
that's something we can hashtag in the description since we already mentioned Tremors.
yeah.
Kevin
Hashtag
Bacon.
Kevin Bacon.
Hashtag Kevin Bacon.
Mhm.
Well, should Kevin Bacon be in a Star Wars film? That would be interesting.
He's too distracting. He's Kevin Bacon.
It's Kevin Bacon. That's what happened with First Class to me. X-Men First Class.
Really? He took you out? I enjoyed him.
No, I liked it, but I was like, it's Kevin Bacon. Like,
Kevin Bacon,
I couldn't take him 100% seriously as a
That
evil
happened with me
character.
with the prequels. With Sam Jackson. I was like, Sam Jackson.
Really?
That means
Yeah.
Sam Jackson.
Yeah. He's Shaft. He's,
Exactly.
you know, yeah.
He's
Yeah.
Sam Jackson. He's not.
Yeah. He's supposed to be throwing F-bombs all around. Why is he being PG?
You're waiting for him to
Yeah.
slash somebody and say motherfucker. And just
Yeah.
Yeah. Which would be great. Don't get me wrong, but
Mm-hmm.
Imagine
Anyway,
going.
but I see that like our tangents kind of like
Went
show
above and beyond right now. Yes.
that we have more or less wrapped up our Mortis conversation. Unless someone else has something to add, I think we are wrapped up here.
Yeah, I think we should just say, to anybody who hasn't watched it, the Mortis arc stands alone. If you're not a fan of Clone Wars or everything, you can just watch these few episodes and it takes something from it. So I encourage anybody that's listening that is not into it, watch it. It's really good. It speaks to the whole series. So it's worth it. Me that was, a hater of Clone Wars. Just, I know.
I hate
I
it
know.
without even watching it.
I know. I'm just terrible.
You were one of those toxic fans we just talked
I
shit
was.
about.
I know. Some things are self-fulfilling.
Yep.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's true. We
self-fulfilling
usually
insults.
dislike the things on other
We
people
are.
that are things that we have
Mhm.
inside.
A reflect of who we are. Yes.
Yep.
So I think on that note, we should say good night.
Good night.
Guys, follow us on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, share, leave us a review, comment. We want the comments, guys. 'cause
Please comment.
I'm pretty sure
Constructive.
we're not right about most of the things we're saying. So we would like,
We are
positive
bullshitting. 100%.
opinions. Yeah, even
90%
negative
of the
opinions. Tell us where we're wrong, because we're probably, not that good of a nerd. So yeah, just tell us where we're wrong. So and to the
Self-deprecating to the.
Exactly.
and to the 10 people that listen to us, thank you
Consistently.
for
Thank you,
listening
yes.
to us. Good night.
Plus the other 10 that put us on mute.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank
We
you.
Don't you? Thank you. Thank you.
May the force be with you.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.